Sure, I see a lot of new faces in here. How many of you guys are new here? Wow, a lot. Well, welcome to our INREIA meeting. The other thing I want to let you guys know, we're going to be going over notes. If for some reason you're unable to jot something down or you want a copy of the slides, that's another good thing for you to talk to Greg because I will give you access to the slides that we'll be going over and discussing this evening. So that's another good reason for you to just hop on over there and make sure Greg has your contact information. But also too, you guys see all the antiques around right now. We're actually going to start bidding on all of those right now. So we're not doing anything with notes right now. We're just going to be selling all these items to you guys. But no, in all seriousness, we're going to be discussing how to find and flip discounted mortgage notes. How many of you guys have done anything with notes as of right now? Just a small handful? You write them? I used to write them too. So that's going to be our main topic this evening. You know, right now there's a lot of, not a lot of great deals out there right now, or a lot of people are having a tough time finding deals. And notes is really a great avenue for you to get some really great deals at substantial discounts, okay? So just to kind of give you a little background on who I am a board member of INREIA. I've been a full-time investor since 2008, known as the #1 off-market finding strategist, okay? I've trained and coached over 2,000 student investors, and I've been responsible for over $250 million in closed transactions. Now, for our agenda, for what we're going to be going over tonight is, what is an NPN? Why should I start focusing on notes? Where can I find sources for notes? And how can I start flipping notes? Okay? So does anybody know what an NPN stands for? Besides the people that have already closed notes before, put your hands down. Yes, good. So a non-performing note, that's what the NPN stands for. It's typically when a homeowner is in default by at least 2 missed payments. That's when the notice of default starts being sent out by the bank. They obviously communicate properly with their attorneys, and that paperwork gets sent out. Now, banks cannot afford to keep carrying bad debt on their books. Okay, it looks very bad, especially when their quarterly earnings comes out. Board members take a look at their balance sheet. They could also get audited by the FDIC. So that's not good. They want to get rid of this debt. Now, most of the individuals that we're going to be talking about where you could find sources through, it's not going to be through your top 20 national banks. So trying to get assets through Bank of America or a Chase or a Wells Fargo, it's just not going to happen unless you have at least 9 figures or more that you could show for a proof of funds. That's the only way that you'll be able to get any type of assets from like a SunTrust, a PNC, Bank of America, and so forth, okay? So we're going to be talking more about local banks, regional banks, also hedge funds and some other sources as well. Now, 9 times out of 10, when a bank does some sort of a loan modification, the homeowner does go back into default. So we're starting to see a lot of that right now. And talking to a lot of the hedge funds out there, they are predicting that we are going to be having some sort of a little bit more of a turmoil here. Not like in 2008, but we are going to see some additional issues probably happening within the next 12 to 24 months, okay? And banks right now, they do want to liquidate both residential and commercial assets. So that's a huge key factor, okay? So focusing on notes. A lot of you obviously did not raise your hand for this, so you could already tell there is far less competition when it comes to notes. Hedge funds rarely invest in notes. They want actual owners of record. They want to be the deed. They want that deed to them. They want to be the owner of record. So the great thing about this is, and I'll be covering this in a little greater detail here in just a little bit, but they will actually become one of your best buyers, okay? And as of right now, according to the FDIC website, there's over $1 trillion in non-performing debt. So lots of debt out there, and it needs to be cleaned up, okay? Unemployment rates too, I'm not a big believer in what the media is telling us. I do believe it's probably closer to 20% across the board. Not in this state specifically, but across the board I do believe it's pretty high. Now, how to find deeply discounted off-market notes through banks, hedge funds, private equity firms, portfolio lenders, and also private sellers, okay? This site right here is called BauerFinancial.com. Has anybody heard of BauerFinancial.com? Nobody? Okay. So Bauer Financial is a really great site for allowing you to find direct access to banks and also credit unions, okay? Because like I said before, you're not going to get in with Bank of America or Chase, okay, unless you're working directly with a hedge fund. Now what you can do, is once you get to this site, you can start looking for the credit unions and banks based on certain states, okay? Now we do stuff from a nationwide perspective, but for this particular instance, when we look for banks in Indiana, there's 160 banks, okay? Now when we search for credit unions, there's 164, okay? So just with doing that simple search, there's well over 300 banks and credit unions that you guys can start to reach out to, okay? Now let's talk about some of the paid sites that we use for finding REO agents, asset managers, hedge funds, private equity firms, etc. So LaneGuide.com is a paid service that will allow you to get directly with asset managers, REO agents. It's somewhat of a good site. The information isn't always accurate. If for some reason the information is not accurate, they will do their best over at LaneGuide.com to really find that information for you and get that back for you, okay? So LaneGuide, does allow you to do several searches, okay? There's service right now, if it's just you on your team, it's about $170 for the year, so not bad, okay? Another one is if you want to get in with hedge funds, a great site is hedgelists.com, okay? That's another site we use for finding certain hedge funds within the United States. And if you wanted to purchase the list, it's only about $650. And it comes with, I think, 2,400 hedge funds. So it's a pretty decent list, okay? So this is what I do for really getting direct with a lot of the gatekeepers, because what I've shown you is, at Bauer Financial, you've got the name of the bank, but you don't know exactly who to contact now at that bank. So we need some names, we need some contact information. We're not going to just call the 800 number and say, hey, can I speak to the asset manager? More than likely, you'll probably be on hold for 4-5 hours, and the end result won't be something happy for you, okay? So how many of you guys, from a show of hands, currently use LinkedIn? Okay, so you currently use it, or you have an account and you somewhat use it. Are you on? Who's on there every day, I should say? Okay, so LinkedIn is probably one of the most undervalued social networks, probably across the board. They've got over 300 million users registered, okay? So it's not like Facebook, to where somebody's taking a picture of their dinner that they just had, or they're checking in at Massage Envy or something. It's a business professional site, okay? And it's designed for one purpose, and that's making more money, okay? There's over 2,000 plus registered real estate investing groups, okay? And basic accounts are absolutely free. So what I want you guys to do is just pay attention to this part for really finding the advanced part of finding the key players that you want at banks and credit unions and hedge funds and so forth. So when you go onto your LinkedIn account, you're going to click on Advanced. Okay, when you click on Advanced, you're going to type in the keyword Asset Manager. Okay, when you type in Asset Manager, what I want you to do is only click on your second and third connections. Okay, when you click on your second and third connections, these are people that you're not already connected with on LinkedIn. These are people that you could now connect with from a new perspective. Okay, so the search result came up with a little over 1.5 million searches for asset managers. So that's pretty big, okay? And like I showed you before with Lane Guide and also some of the searches with hedge lists, those are services that you have to pay for, okay? LinkedIn is completely free, okay? And we just found 1.5 million asset managers that are listed on LinkedIn. Now, I will tell you from doing this with LinkedIn since 2010 that 80% of the people are going to be individuals that you're going to want to connect with, okay? The other 20% are going to be probably individuals that manage mutual funds, retirement accounts, anything with 401ks. So 80% of the folks out there that have an asset manager title are going to be people that you're going to want to connect with, okay? Now, another title that I want to give to you guys right now is Portfolio Manager. Same thing applies. It's going to be the 80-20 rule. Okay, 20% are going to be folks that you're probably not going to want to connect with. Okay, and this search has a little under 3 million. Okay, so just between the two searches, and there's plenty other titles that you guys could start utilizing. This has over 4 million people that you guys can connect with. Now, obviously, even if with this large group of people, there's no way that we can get through all of those individuals. So we need to zero it in and target it on exactly who we're wanting to get in contact with, okay? So what I want to do is kind of look out for the people that we're wanting to connect with. So this is Amy. She's an asset manager here in Indianapolis, okay? She works for City Real Estate Advisors. She's got 405 connections, okay? And the 3 spots that I have for you, okay? First one is we need to make sure that the title says asset manager or they're at a higher level. So they could be a vice president or some sort of an executive role is what we really want to try and find here, okay? Next is connections, okay? We don't want to connect with people that aren't actively on LinkedIn because it would be pointless. With free basic accounts, you only get so many connection requests that you could send out. So I always want to look for a minimum of 300 connections, okay? This bottom one here, okay, as you guys can see with the URL, this is a URL that is automatically given to you when you open up your LinkedIn account, okay? You can customize this. So for those of us that live here in Indianapolis, if you wanted to have a search engine optimized URL, you could put "We Buy Indianapolis Houses" as your URL, and that's a way for people to find you on Google, okay? So obviously we don't want to use "We Buy Houses" because there's a guy out there that actually owns that term, "We Buy Houses." I know this because several individuals that I've worked with have received cease and desist letters from his staff. So make sure you don't have "We Buy Houses" in any of your information, okay? So the other thing that I want to look out for is I scroll down to the bottom of the page and I want to see how many groups they're currently associated with, okay? I want to see if they're involved in other real estate related groups, okay? If they're not in at least 5 real estate investing groups, I'm not going to want to connect with them. Main reason why is they're probably not on LinkedIn for the same purposes as me. Okay, my purpose is to connect with people, do deals, and we can make some money. We're both happy. Okay? Is all this making sense so far to you guys? Nobody? You. It's making sense to you. Does anybody have any questions so far that I could field for you? Nobody? Okay. So you guys are all going to go out. You're going to be rock stars at this. I'm so excited. Yes? Yeah, we're wanting to connect with people on LinkedIn. Yep, good question. Yes? Yeah.
What do you want to do with that person? So they're an asset manager and they're in real estate groups. Are you looking at, I thought we were able to buy.
Exactly. So the individual could be in real estate related groups. And I'll show an example here in a second. But the other thing that I want to bring up, which she brings up a great point, is say, for instance, the person's under 300 connections. Okay, they may have just joined LinkedIn. We don't want to completely take them off the list. So I want to scroll down. Maybe they're in a bunch of groups. Maybe they're starting to really get their business going on LinkedIn. So that's why I say at least 5 real estate related groups. But if the individual is like an asset manager, they're in groups. They're in groups on here such as Banking Connects. That's a group that is real estate related. Okay, like this individual here, she's in affordable housing. That's a good group. There's another one for affordable housing. She's in some real estate groups, but it's just not enough. And she has 400 connections, so she meets that, but she does not meet the part where she's in at least 5 real estate related groups. It doesn't have to be on investing, it just has to be real estate related. Does that make sense?
So is that telling you that she's asset managing real estate? That's what you're looking for?
Well, she could be an asset manager at a bank. She could be an asset manager at a hedge fund. She'll let you know which company she currently works for. But what I'm really wanting to find out is if the individual is in at least the 5 groups or more, it's showing me that that person is active, and that means that she'll accept my request when I send it to her, and then we could start communicating back and forth. Yep. Great question. Anybody else have any questions? Yes?
In that case, she is 5. She is in 5.
She is, yeah. So she is in 5. Okay, so that would be somebody that I would potentially want to connect with. Okay, it looks like she's in about 9 groups right now. It's a little bit low, but if you're really wanting to zero it in and like really laser focus on certain individuals, then yeah, that person would be somebody I'd want to connect with. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? I want to make sure everything makes sense to everybody. Going good? Okay. So what I want to do, since LinkedIn made some changes in early October, they made some changes on how you connect with people on LinkedIn. Now, what I've seen, in order for you to connect with people, is you send out a friend request the same way you would on Facebook or the same way you would on any of the other social media platforms. So what I do is I simply click friend, okay? And the way I do that, the reason why I do that, now, if I'm not a member of a same group as that person, at least 2 groups, if we're not in the same group together, then it's going to be considered spam. So going back to this one, right now I'm not a member with this individual. So I'd have to join a couple of the groups in order for us to be in the same type of groups, okay? And then that won't be considered spam under LinkedIn on how you send your friend requests, okay? So as you guys can see, the note that I left to Amy was, "Hi Amy, I saw that we're in the same group, the Property Network, and I wanted to reach out as we share similar interests in real estate. Let's connect to see if we can do some business together. Talk soon, Jason." So very simple message, okay? This is an individual that's she's an asset manager, okay? So obviously you guys won't be able to write this all down. That's why I said I can get you guys copies of this, and you guys can copy and paste these messages onto your own LinkedIn messages. But I don't send out the message that says, "Hi, so-and-so, I'd like to add you to my professional network." Okay? There's nothing personable about that. And in this real estate business, it's all about the relationships that you're building with people. So try and customize it and make it personable for them, okay? So this is Scott. This is somebody that is also in Indianapolis. He is vice president at First Internet Bank, okay? So right off the bat, everybody that's been paying attention, what are we really trying to look for here? What are some of the flags that come up? Connections? His position, but he's at an executive level. So the position's actually, it's good. Connections, though, he's at a 161. What else do we see, though? I know you guys, for some of you back there, you probably might not be able to see this, but he did customize his URL, okay? So he put his name, S. McCullough, or S.A. McCullough. So he did customize it, and how I can see that he customized it is he doesn't have the hyphen with the numbers after it. Because what I could show you right here, if you could see it on Amy's, she's got the numbers right here. Does that make sense to you guys? How it's customized? Okay, so Scott, as I scroll down, Scott's involved in 20 plus groups. And it wouldn't fit on the slide, but Scott and I were involved in about 3 groups together. So it made sense for me to want to connect with him. Vice president at a bank, he's going to be able to put me in the right direction, okay, with that particular bank that I would be wanting to focus on. Now, if I contacted him, it would go like this. I would say, "Hey, Scott, just connected with you on LinkedIn. I just wanted to reach out, introduce myself to you. And I just want to let you know I'm an investor here in town, and I was looking to acquire some non-performing notes that you could potentially have available." And he would say yes or no, okay, because we do get their phone number. We get their email, okay? In some cases, you'll get their cell phone, okay? And I'll give you the steps for following up with that. But if he's not the one that's able to help you, he's the vice president. He's going to give you the right information. Trust me, because I know I've done this hundreds of times. And we've contacted vice presidents, and they'll be like, "No, here, contact this person. She's the special assets manager." Okay? So special assets manager is another one that you would definitely want to write down. Also at banks and credit unions, you'd want to write down loan workout officer. So loan workout officer is another title that you guys can use for talking to these people, okay? So the message is pretty much the same. The cool thing is when you guys get access to these slides, you'll be able to use different messages. I would recommend that you guys do change up the messages slightly to fit your style of how you talk, how you speak, and how you communicate with people, okay? So let's get direct with individuals that work at the banks and at credit unions, okay? So this is the National Bank of Indianapolis in South Bend. Has anybody done business with them at all? You have? Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, right, this one, yeah. Wrong slide. So yeah, National Bank of Indianapolis. So this is Alan Jones, Vice President, okay, of Loan Review. So this is somebody that I would potentially want to connect with. He fits the mold with 300 connections, and he's the vice president, so he's got an executive role, which allows me to reach out and ask him for specifically non-performing notes, performing notes, and for some of you out there that want to get really great deals, they have REO deals too that they are wanting to liquidate, okay? The great thing about this too, when you're working with banks that aren't in the top 20, you're not going to have to worry about deed restrictions. So if you want to flip deals same day, you're not going to have to worry about getting an approval letter, and line item number 10 states that you have to hold the property for 30 days. It's a major bummer. With these banks that aren't in the top 20, you don't get a deed restriction, okay?
Isn't this a little bit of a, do they really want to let you know that they have bad loans out there? Isn't that sort of a black eye?
Well, it's all public record. You could go on the FDIC website. If you want to go fully prepared, you could pull up this bank's balance sheet immediately, and you could let them know, hey, I saw that you had, $2.7 million in non-performing loans. First of all, they're going to be super impressed. And next thing, they're probably going to send it to you. The one thing that I can tell you, the reason why I know this does not have a lot of competition, you guys should absolutely take advantage of this, is I've had several individuals in other states where they've called banks, and the number one response that individuals are getting back is, you know what, I've never had anybody call me before and ask me for if I was selling any non-performing loans. So it's a very great opportunity for you to get in with deeply discounted loans at these banks, okay? So moving on, I saw that I was connected in 2 groups already with Alan, okay? One of them was a risk management group, and another one was a loan review and restructuring group, okay? The reason why I was in those groups, just in case you guys are wondering, they are obviously real estate related, but that's where a lot of asset managers, special assets managers, loan workout officers, that's where they all are. They're all in there. And you could see the active ones. You could go in those groups, find out who's active, okay? Now, once I did this with Alan, we connected, okay? He connected with me, okay? And you guys can see the information that I now have. I have his cell phone number. I have his personal email address. And I could send him a message on LinkedIn. Now, the one thing I want to tell you guys, when you send a message using LinkedIn's platform, you get 100% deliverability rate, okay? That's better than if you were using your Gmail account to send him an account to his personal work address. The main reason why is he may have messages that are coming from outbound sources that he doesn't know, immediately flagged and going into his spam box. Now, what he did by us getting 100% into his inbox is he had to do what's called a confirmed opt-in in order for him to have a LinkedIn account. So when I send him a message, it goes right to his inbox. He sees it immediately, okay? Now, the thing I'm going to tell you guys is you've got to wait 2 business days before you give them a phone call, okay? I always send an email first, okay? And then I follow up with a phone call. Don't be a stalker. I know we get super excited. We want to give them a call immediately. Just don't be a stalker, because then Matt or Drew will have to help you out from a legal perspective. Well, actually, yeah, they like that. Thumbs up. So that's what I would recommend you guys do, okay? And in some cases, you could also get their Skype information. You could get their, like in this case, I know when his date of birth was. So if I want to send him a birthday card, I have the address of where he works, okay? That works. It absolutely works. When I was doing a ton of short sales, when I didn't get a response from a loss mitigator, the one thing I did every single time, especially if it was a female, I would always send a nice bouquet of flowers. And I would always receive a response that same day. And sometimes I would do a bouquet of flowers plus a big giant teddy bear, so they would get really, everybody in the office would be like, oh my gosh, who's sending you all this stuff? And I would get calls right away. Same thing applies with birthday cards. Okay, you could make it sound in a way to where even though you don't know them, you could be like, hey, I saw it was your birthday. We're connected on LinkedIn. I just wanted to, wish you a happy day. Something basic, something simple. Okay. I had a sad situation one time where this woman was like, I've never received flowers in my entire life. And she gave me probably one of the best short sales ever. She gave me a great approval. Let's just say that. So let's talk about working with hedge funds and how that can, lead to a lot of great ways for you getting some great off-market deals. Now, hedge funds are currently buying properties that they can rent, okay? Right now, I don't see a whole lot of the hedge funds really doing a lot here, okay? They're doing some, okay? But a lot of the hedge funds, from talking to Blackstone a lot, they're really wanting to stay in a range to where they can buy properties and hold on to properties that are renting at $1,200 or more per month, okay? The other properties that they're buying, it's just called, when they purchase, $100+ million or more from these banks, they're called data tapes. Okay? And when they purchase these data tapes, they take the ones that they want, and then they want to liquidate the remainder. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So the hedge funds are selling their deals, and they don't go on the MLS because they want to work with us investors before they have to go to the MLS and have to pay an agent 6% in commission. Okay? And some of the cool things, how many of you guys know this from closing a few deals that some of these hedge funds out there are actually providing lines of credit? Has anybody received any of those yet? Yeah? B2R, you mean from their buy and hold strategy? Huh? Right. Yeah. No, I'm talking about lines of credit to where you can do whatever you want with the money. So some of these hedge funds that you guys get in with, they will provide fix and flip money for you. And it's at super great terms. It's almost essentially at private money terms. Most of the deals right now that we have a line of credit with are right around 8.5% interest rate, non-recourse, and it's right around 1 to 2 points. So pretty good terms. It's pretty much all of them across the board, to be honest with you. We just got one approved from Blackstone in November, and we haven't really had a need to look anywhere else. They do want to see some sort of a track record of at least 10 properties that you've closed, either fix and flipped, rehabbed, or that you've kept for your own portfolio. That's essentially what they're looking for. So let's take a look here at Blackstone. This guy, his name is Michael Cohen. He's got 436 connections, okay? The thing I will point out to you is his URL is not customized, okay? But he works for Blackstone, so I was like, what the heck, I'll try reaching out to him and seeing what happens. And I saw that he was in a lot of groups. We are actually in a lot of the same groups together. So he was in close to 16, 17 groups already together, okay? I sent him out a message. Again, I clicked friend request, and I sent him out a message. Now, this is a message that's going out to somebody that works for a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund, okay? And it's just a very simple, short and sweet message, okay? Now, 17 minutes after I clicked send to him, he connected back with me. I had access to his cell phone, to his personal email address, and I could also send him a message. So do you guys, has anybody in the past, before the 21st century came about, does anybody realize how cool this is? When I was doing this, when I first started out in 2008, 2009, this type of information wasn't available. I was literally cold calling every single person I could try and get a hold of to try and get these assets. Now it's right here. You don't even have to pay for it. So this is gigantic information that once we're done here, either tonight or tomorrow, you guys should be implementing this in your business immediately. And we'll give you all the messages that I use. You'll have access to them. So seriously, copy and paste the information that I'm doing and start having, these types of connections come in for you. So let's kind of do a recap here. Steps for connecting. Okay, we're going to check the title. Okay, to make sure it's matched what we've generated. We want to see how many current connections are associated with your prospect's profile. Has the URL been customized? How many groups is your prospect a member of? Now, the one thing I will tell you is at least 5, okay? And make sure they're real estate related, okay? Now, tips for a great profile. And I've told a lot of individuals this. Use an actual headshot of yourself. No picture of your dog or some random house, okay? Use your headshot. Does everybody have a smartphone or a phone that takes pictures? Like literally just take the phone, boop, you're good to go. Just put it up on your profile. I'm telling you, it will make the world of difference when people want to connect with you, okay? We've actually tested this time and time again. You will receive at least a 57% bump in your connections that will want to connect with you, okay? Create a keyword-friendly title so you can be found easily by others, okay? What I mean by that is put in your title, real estate investor, okay? If you are a rehabber, put rehab single-family residences. Put in keywords so people can find you when they're doing searches, okay? Add in a detailed summary about yourself so you can have the right people connecting with you. Add your current company, okay, and make sure you leave a description of what your company does, okay? And join as many real estate investing groups as you want. With a free basic account, you could join up to 100 groups for free. Okay, that's a lot of groups. They just changed that in October. It was at 50, now it's at 100. Okay? You got a question, sir?
What's your recommendation on LinkedIn with your current professional career and
No, that's a great question. So his question was if he's got a current position that he has his full-time job, I would just make a second profile and separate the two. Okay? And if you're worried about, your employer finding out, what I've had others do is just, do their first name and then their middle name. That's another way you can do it to separate the two. Does that help out? Okay. Okay, cool. Yes?
About the summary, so if you're new and you haven't really done anything, what do you want to do?
Well, what are you wanting to do as a real estate investor? No, what? Yeah, no, I'm asking you.
So I've been doing research on wholesaling. In the end, I'd like to own property.
Okay, so you would like to buy and hold properties in the Indianapolis area, correct? Okay. Are you just looking in Marion County? Okay, so you're probably looking in counties surrounding Marion County. Okay, are you doing anything out of state? No? Okay. What type of properties are you looking for? Okay. Do you want to do any type of rehab on those properties? Okay. So you're just strictly wanting to buy and hold right now. Are you wanting to do anything like wholesaling any of the properties that you come across? Okay. Okay. And what type of people are you looking to work with? You're probably wanting to look for other real estate investors that are looking to purchase properties that are similar to the ones you're coming across, correct? So that's your summary. Yep. So it doesn't need to be anything like, written by somebody that went to Wharton or something. It could just be something super simple by a guy that didn't even go to college. Yeah. Yes.
You made a point just a minute ago about, I use it for my other clients. I don't want to confuse them with
Sure.
the second profile, so I'm finding you into this other profile. If you make up a name using your first and middle name or whatever, and then you go to do a deal with somebody, And then they're like, well, you said you're on LinkedIn, your name is this, and now you're doing a deal with me. Is that going to be a problem, you think?
You could always have the title of your name be your company name too.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah. So, whatever the name of your company is, it would just go there instead of your name. And that would be something that you would want to display.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I would still have a picture of yourself. I know some people that do, their business logo in there, and that's somewhat fine, but I would definitely highly recommend using a headshot. Mm-hmm. Great question. Any other questions, guys? No? Okay. What was that? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Great personal information. Go ahead. Sure. Add your current company information and add in a summary of what your company does. And the last bullet point was join as many real estate investing groups. You could join up to 100 for free with the basic account. Are you good on that, buddy? Okay, no problem. So the outcome from really utilizing LinkedIn here, you're going to develop connections with like-minded real estate professionals that are thinking exactly the way you are, or potentially they're wanting to purchase some of the properties that you're coming across so that you can liquidate as quickly as possible. Okay? You're going to gain access to direct contacts at banks, hedge funds, private equity firms, portfolio lenders, and private sellers. Now, how many of us out there have received deals or packages of deals from somebody and they claim they were direct? From a show of hands. So there's a lot, okay? This will help you get direct so you could completely bypass the whole daisy chain crap, okay? Because that's just a complete waste of time. The deals that you're going to be finding on Craigslist that they say are off market, it's no longer off market when it's being advertised on Craigslist, okay? I'm sorry, it's not. So the one thing I can tell you, this will help you get direct, okay? Now, a pointer that I'll give to you is if somebody does say they are direct and they're really not, I would recommend that you get on a conference call and speak to the owner of record, okay? Or at least if you're buying notes, find out who the current person that is on the most recent assignment of mortgage, okay? Or AOM, okay? Steve, yes.
I think it's worth mentioning too that if getting the daisy chain thing away, someone's trying to protect the person that brought it to you, or something, someone will let you get through that.
So Steve was mentioning a non-circumvent, non-disclosure agreement. They're somewhat good documents. Do they hold up in court? More than likely not. And Matt and Drew could probably let you know that. If somebody's going to do that, especially in this small of a metropolitan area, I will just blast their name out. So nobody else knows. So everybody else knows, hey, don't work with this guy. Seriously, I will do that. If somebody wants to go and make $10,000, ruin a long-lasting relationship to where we're going to make well over $10,000 together, well, I'm going to let everybody else know in this town that they should not do business with the person. If I sign an NCND with you, and I had an agreement with Steve that I was purchasing his house, and you went behind me, then we wouldn't be friends anymore, unfortunately. We couldn't even go out for donuts and coffee. I'm sorry, man. One of the best things that you could do, which is probably a better choice than an NCND, is putting an option contract on the property. Okay? Just use a state-approved option contract, notice of option, and if he did decide that he wanted to pass up, our 20, 30 years worth of going out for donuts and coffee, he would have to pay me off first because my notice of option would be recorded on the property. And I'd be like, hey, tough man, you're gonna have to pay me off 10 grand to get off the property because I have my option on here. So that would screw up his deal, and I would know for a fact, and I would catch him red-handed if he tried going and circumventing me. Does that make sense to everybody? Does everybody know what an option contract is? Yeah? Okay, cool. Yes, sir.
So once you build these relationships rapport with these particular people, asset managers, what's your due diligence list look like for vetting these opportunities out? What kind of loan values, what kind of documentation are you looking for?
Sure, and I'll get to that here. I've got some case studies that we'll go over, and if you still have that question, then I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. And we'll do some Q&A here in just a little bit. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Good. So how to structure note deals and packages, okay, for big money. So this is case study where I like to buy the note and sell the deed, okay? So this particular source came from a bank. Oh, ambulance can pass. Let's pray. So the source of the deal is a bank special assets manager. That's who it came from LinkedIn. This was 11 non-performing notes in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Like I said, we do stuff all over the country. The information that was disclosed that we received from that special assets manager was the BPOs, broker price opinion, title work, mortgage history, and all of the notice of defaults that were filed on each individual property. Now, the main reason why I like to see the notice of defaults is I like to see how far along in the process those particular assets are, okay? Because if they're about 30 days out, then I know the bank's probably gonna ask for a higher price, a higher premium, because they're gonna be able to get that deed back within the next 30 days. So I wanna find out if the state's judicial or non-judicial process, I wanna see how the timeline is, okay? The fair market value of this particular package was at $396,000. The unpaid principal balance was $487,988, and the ask price, and if you are talking to somebody at like a trading desk, if you start working with hedge funds or particular banks, it's going to be, the term is going to be used as strike or ax, okay? And this particular ask price was $210. Okay, so the exit strategy that I wanted to do was a deed in lieu with the current owner of record. Okay, so how was I going to do this? I was going to discuss with the current owner of record to do a deed in lieu. And most of us, have you heard cash for keys? So essentially, when I would become the bank, I can offer cash for keys to this person. Okay, so I went to them, approached them, said, hey, this is what I'm able to do. I'm in negotiations right now to acquire your mortgage. This is what I want to do with you. This is how I'm able to help, okay? So the due diligence in this particular manner is you line up your cash buyer, okay? Review documents provided by the bank. Review the AOM. This is very, very important. You want to make sure that individual that you're getting that assignment of mortgage from is the actual accurate information. And you want to make sure that they have access to the original note, or you're going to have to go and get a judge to sign off on having a brand new note created if for some reason the original note was misplaced or lost, okay? And make time to speak with the homeowner, okay? Now, in this particular case, yes?
Are you also looking to see if there's any second out there?
Yeah, we will. In this particular case, there was no second liens. But yes, if there were second liens, then if we're doing a deed in lieu and we're letting the second lien holder know that we're doing a deed in lieu on the property, that essentially gives us clear title. If for some reason the second lien holder is not okay with that, we'll just let it go to foreclosure and the second lien will just get wiped out. Yes?
So in this case, you're saying that the unpaid principal was $487,000, the fair market value was $396, so
Correct. Yep.
they're underwater.
They're underwater big time. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. They didn't hear you.
I just asked if the unpaid balance principal was $487,000 and the fair market value was $396, so they're underwater big time.
Yep. So essentially she's wanting to point out that they're extremely overdue. They're underwater. So the bank at this point has a very negative balance sheet. This was coming from one particular bank, okay? So let's discuss the outcome here. So the final sales price in my first transaction is considered a personal property transaction. So there isn't a closing statement, there's nothing like that. It's just a personal property transaction. I ended up negotiating to purchase for $170, okay? I flipped it same day, and the final sale price was $200, okay? We gave the current owner of record $5,000, cash for keys. We had an itemized report. It was for moving expenses, and the notes were, the deed in lieu was held in escrow until we closed on our transaction, our A to B transaction. So that deed in lieu document could not be executed until we became the new bank, okay? Time that this took, 37 days, closed from start to finish. Net profit was $20,950, so minus off $5,000 cash for keys, plus $2,550 for same-day funding, plus $1,500 in closing costs. Now, I used a company called besttransactionfunding.com, and they funded the transaction for me. And you guys could feel free to use them too. Anybody have any questions on this particular one? That was for 11 mortgage notes. Yep.
The $5,000, was that split over 11 homeowners or?
No, that was actually for a few different homeowners. Some of them accepted 500, some of them accepted 1,000. Some of them they accepted it with $0 because. Correct. That was for all 11, but no, great question. And to clarify, the main reason why homeowners are okay with doing a deed in lieu is because it doesn't stay on their credit as a foreclosure would for up to 7 years. Foreclosure is going to damage the credit by 200 to 300 points. And in addition, a deed in lieu is more than likely it's going to show balance paid as zero, okay, or an amount less than what's owed, okay? And it's going to damage the credit, yes, but it's going to be about 6 months compared to 7 years, okay? So does that answer your question? Yes. It was a cash investor. The great thing about this is I didn't sell them notes. I sold them deeds. So when I had my deed in lieus executed after I closed at 9 in the morning, my closing rep had somebody from his office go and execute these 11 deed in lieu documents. So by the time we closed the second transaction that afternoon, he was buying deeds from me. They were completely off-market transactions. So he was thrilled, he was excited, he wanted off-market transactions. So does that answer your question? No, this wasn't a hedge fund, it was a cash investor. So from a show of hands, who would buy properties that were completely off market like this, that are under 60% of fair market value? So there's your people right there. No, I never even saw them. I had another wholesaler go out there and take a look at them.
So someone did.
Somebody did, yes. And that's typically what we do when we're doing stuff from a nationwide perspective. It could be a wholesaler, it could be a real estate agent. Typically what I do is I give them like 10, 15% of the gross profit. Yes. What was that? You know, what I typically like to see is when the bank gives those to me, they're typically within 90 days of when they were done and executed. I'll take a look at the comps, see how far they're away. It allows me to do my initial due diligence to craft and create an offer, but I don't completely hold on to them for a true value. I want to have my own CMA done, and I really want to be able to get as super accurate as possible on those numbers because I'm not looking at them, and even though I have somebody go out there and look at them, I want to make sure that process is completely fine-tuned. Does that help out? Okay, cool. Any other questions, guys? Good stuff here. Yes?
What happens if you don't, like one of the properties that's coming in through, like it's just totally trash or, things of that nature?
In this particular case, it was all or nothing. And this particular investor really liked majority of the properties. There were a couple, like you just said, but the really good ones outweighed the ones that weren't really all that great. Because I think what he ended up doing is he ended up moving those properties, I think it was 2 properties actually, into his nonprofit. And then he was able to do some nonprofit stuff with them. He got I believe some funding from the state to rehab them, and he was able to make them Section 8 properties. So he did some creative stuff on the back end. Great question, though. Anything else, guys? Yes. It's besttransactionfunding.com. So just transaction, not transactions. Yep. So this is a case study here where there's an underwater performing note in this particular process. Okay, we didn't talk about performing notes at all. We've just been strictly talking about non-performing notes. Okay? In this particular case, we found this from a loan workout officer from LinkedIn. This was one performing note from Geneva, Illinois. Okay? The information that was disclosed was BPOs, title, mortgage history, and any notice of defaults that may have happened previously. Okay? I always ask for that information just to make sure that it is a current prime performing loan. This particular case, fair market value is 1.275. Unpaid principal balance is 1.97. Okay? So very upside down. I know the market up there pretty well because that's where I grew up in the Chicagoland area right outside of Geneva. So I knew they took a really big hit in 2008. The ask price that the bank currently was really wanting was a little over $1 million. Okay? Now this is what I do in this particular case. Now these aren't deals that I do all of the time, but I have done enough of them to really kind of go over the process with you. So this particular exit strategy was homeowner was to refinance us off, okay, off of the mortgage. So when we became the bank, we would be getting refinanced off. So what we would do is we would discuss with the homeowner on doing a balance reduction, okay? So the due diligence for us in this particular case was have the owner of record receive a pre-approval letter. We would receive documents from the bank, okay? We would review the assignment of mortgage. Again, that's very important for us to do. And make time to speak with the homeowner, okay? Now, in this particular case, the bank took a really big bath, okay? We were able to get it for $830,000, okay? The final sale price was $936,000. Okay, again, these were just personal property transactions. These weren't actual real estate transactions. Correct. Yep. Yes.
When you get into some sort of exclusive agreement with a bank, how long does it take you to market to the buyer without sort of going around you, like make everybody sign these and you have to paperwork?
Well, it's different when you're working directly with a bank because that individual doesn't know who you're working with. And bless you. 9 times out of 10, we already have a buyer for these particular properties, and this wasn't a buyer. The owner of record was our buyer, and I just from having like a previous mortgage background, I talked to them, and I knew that they had a job that they were at for at least 2 years. They made great income. They had some reserves, and I knew they could get qualified for a mortgage, and it saved them dramatically a lot of money. The owner of record received a little over $1 million principal loan reduction. Their payment went from a little over $13,000 to $6,500. So they wanted to do that in a heartbeat. Yes. It reports as negatively, just as a non-performing note does on their balance sheet because of how much money that note is currently underwater. Exactly. Yep. Nope. That's exactly right. Yes. I did not refinance it. They got like, say for instance they went to him and they got a mortgage from him, and I gave him a payoff. I'm like, here's the payoff, and then his bank paid me. Absolutely correct. Yep, correct. Yes.
The type of mortgage you're saying carefully review, that's their bank's assignment to you or any prior assignment?
Any prior assignments, because I'll have a new one, and then I'll give him a new one.
So the ones you're worried about, if you have prior ones, make sure that bank is
Correct. Correct. Because if that loan decides for whatever to have a forensic loan audit and all of the assignment of mortgages are not there, that loan could be called incorrectly, and that person can now get that house free and clear. Yep. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yep. No, it was a straight refinance, no cash out. So this one closed, net profit $89,000. I had to pay same day funding, closing costs. I'm running out of time here, so let me. That was just one note. Yep, one deal. So this particular one, this was a quick flip and keep. So I have to go through this pretty quickly. Don't have too much time left. So this came from an asset manager. This was actually another one found on LinkedIn. 51 non-performing notes, and this was nationwide. So they were all over the place. Again, received BPOs, title, mortgage history, notice of default. Fair market value on this particular package was at $3.3 million. Okay, the unpaid principal balance was 3.8, so very underwater. The ask price, because it was a non-performing asset, was 2.1. Okay. The exit strategy on this was to flip 47 properties and keep 4 for my own income-producing property portfolio. So how was I going to do this? Line up my cash buyer that could close and perform quickly and do their due diligence in a very timely manner. So my due diligence was to send 47 non-performing notes to the cash buyer with current ask price, okay? And they would review documents provided from the bank, and I would again review the assignment of mortgage. Now in this particular case, we were able to negotiate for 1.6, okay? I sold for 1.7, okay? The first transaction closed on 51 non-performing notes, and the second transaction closed on 47 non-performing notes, which means I got to keep 4, okay? Now, the net profit on this wasn't as big. You know, you would think on a 51 non-performing note package, it'd be, 6 figures. But in this particular case, it was 22, but I got to keep 4 properties that were valued at approximately $65,000 each. So it was a great deal, and I knew that the buyer would be okay with purchasing the 47 because there were some great winners in there. Okay? Any questions on this one? Yes? No, the only thing that they want to see is that your end buyer has funds in the escrow account and is going to be closing. Correct. Yes. Well, once you tie it up with them, you can ask for a certain amount of due diligence. They'll typically give you anywhere between 7 to 10 days to do all of your due diligence. So it's best to have a cash buyers list already built up before you start going out and wanting to acquire these assets. So in this particular case, we reached out to our cash buyers list, and they showed us that they had interest in these properties. So definitely have a cash buyers list first. Yes?
What is the $16,000 some dollars for same-day funding?
That's for me to get the loan. So that was based on my first sale, the A to B, 1,657,000. That was in order for me to borrow the money. Best transaction funding. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll make sure that I get him to Drew and he sends them on off. Now, if you guys would like to discuss more on what we went over, you'd like to discuss going over your business, we could literally set up a time. We could talk about your business. I'd love to do something to you. We ask and dissect your 3 to 5 biggest business building needs, okay? The call is very structured. We go over everything within your business. So if you want to schedule something up, we have something that we do here in town. It's only about 10 to 15 people that we have come maximum, so it's not this some big gigantic 300, 400 person event. It's very small, very exclusive. Love to have you guys there. If you'd like to schedule up a time for us to talk, no obligation at all. We'll be talking about you and your business. If you'd like to do that, head on over to theinvestorboardroom.com and you could schedule up a time for us to talk. Right now, February is completely sold out, so we will have some spots available for March, and it is here. So it's no travel or anything like that. And it's good. Steve's been there. Matt comes and talks. It's great stuff. We really dissect everything with you and your business. So again, theinvestorboardroom.com if you guys want to schedule up a time to talk.